Welcome to SushiBites. Go Sweeper Mikami is a manga series created by Takeshi Shina. It spawned an animated show and 2 video games, as well as pachinko machines. The animated show is something really special, and all fans of vintage anime should really take a look at this one-of-a-kind sexy and spooky series. Lots of laughs, lots of fun moments. Here is the gist. Reiko Mikami is a hot-blooded Catholic exorcist who loves money. She runs an exorcism company aided by the young Tadao Yokoshima and a ghost named Akinu. They get into silly situations and ultimately succeed in extorting huge sums from their victims. I mean clients. This is Go Sweeper Mikami Joreishi wa Nice Body for the Super Famicom. It literally translates to Go Sweeper Mikami graces the exorcism with her nice body. Don't worry, although the name sounds very risque or risky, you don't have to be alarmed in this case. This game is perfectly safe for work, a lot more than some of the games we may eventually cover on SushiBites. So this is the Go Sweeper Mikami game that I think is actually good. It's a side-scrolling platformer. It was developed by Natsume, who made Pocky and Rocky, Kiki Kai Kai in Japan. They made Harvest Moon. And this is another game that really backs up their library of fantastic games. It's a straightforward side-scrolling platformer. You have a sword-type weapon that you can attack with. This is a tool that Mikami uses in the TV series and manga to attack enemies and to ward off demons, so it's part of the series canon, and I like that they didn't just make a weapon up. And you go around hitting ghosts and knocking ghosts out, finding the main enemy of each level, killing that enemy, and taking a jewel or gem that they drop. And then eventually, once all 7 gems have been uncovered, you fight the final boss. It's basically a really good, challenging platformer. You have to play on normal to see the whole game, and it's challenging. It's not impossible by any means in terms of difficulty, but it does require lots of memorization and lots of getting used to the game's mechanics and really getting a feel for it. But I really do consider it a game worth getting to grips with and understanding, because its mechanics are so good. Now, where I think the game shines the most, I mean, the platforming's good and the levels are fun and they're quite lengthy, but where I think the game really shines the most is the boss battles. Now, the first boss is kind of predictable, boring, not much really goes on, but every other boss battle in the game is very interesting, has its own cool gimmick or mechanic that it brings in. So the second boss battle is against a doll, and you can't attack the doll directly, you've got to attack its hands. You have to defeat both its hands. There's a boss that is a ghost of a dog, and it can spawn another, like, imitation of itself, and you have to fight the 2 of them at once. That's pretty cool. And then later on there's a boss who's a clown that jumps on top of a giant rat and spawns little tiny clowns, and if there's 3 of them on screen at once, they play a tune and you get turned into a little girl for 10 seconds or whatever, and you can't attack, and that boss battle's pretty cool. But the coolest boss battle, in my opinion, is the boss battle on the Playboy Mansion level, because you fight an apparition, a younger version of Reiko, from when she was being trained to become an exorcist. And that boss battle is really tricky because of the way she moves during that boss battle, because she's got most of the moves you have and a couple you don't. And you have to be fully aware of what's going on to be able to tackle that boss. And then once you defeat that apparition, you still got to fight the horse guy that made the apparition appear, and you could just wail on him because he has no attacks, he can't fight back, so you just wail on him 6 or 7 hits and just watch him writhe around in pain. It's so cool. Yeah, in terms of what Go Sweeper Mikami is about, I think the action game gets it, the Super Famicom game, because it's really action-based, really fun, really fast-paced, compared to that boring card game with so much talking. Basically, the way I look at it is this, right? Go Sweeper Mikami If you're a fan of vintage manga or vintage anime, if you like horror, if you like something a little bit raunchy, I think you will love Ghost Sweeper Mikami. But even if you don't take the time to look at the animated series or look at the manga, I would absolutely suggest, if you even so much as consider yourself a fan of 2D action platformers, if you consider yourself a retro gamer, you owe it to yourself to play Ghost Sweeper Mikami Joreishi wa Nice Body all the way through. It's such a good game. I bought it as an actual import recently in the past couple of years. I've played it on my Famiclone, my Super Famiclone. I've got a Retro Duo, and sitting back with that and playing that game through all the way was so much fun. Playing it on the physical controller just made it all the more better. But even if you can't do that, download the ROM, and play it yourself. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I really enjoyed it, and I just wanted to share that enjoyment of this game with you. It's nice to have a game here on SushiBites that I can actually say, yeah, it's worth playing. Even with Cotton, I was sort of, it's worth a look, but Ghost Sweeper Mikami Joreishi wa Nice Body, it goes beyond worth a look. It's worth an entire playthrough. Honest to God, fantastic game. Until next time, if we live that long. Welcome to SushiBites. Now, when I discovered this game, I was just blown aback. This is Saru Daisakusen. The Saru franchise is known as Ape Escape outside of Japan, but we've only really had the 3 main Ape Escape titles and a couple of the really bad spin-offs like Ape Academy. I don't care what you say, I really don't like Ape Academy. Japan, they've had many more games in this franchise. They absolutely love the Saru franchise, and I can understand why. It ticks all their boxes. Cute, fun, sometimes challenging. Overall, excellent and enjoyable. Because it's of the Ape Escape Saru franchise, it's a very simple game. It's a 3D platformer like the other Ape Escape games, but with a big difference. Instead of capturing monkeys with the monkey net, you are now capturing them with a mind control helmet. But that mind control helmet is actually a sphere that you're rolling around as. The story doesn't really matter though, because it's an Ape Escape game. While there are cutscenes, they're in Japanese, so, I could only grab the gist of what was going on, and I mean I could for the most part, because it's a relatively simple story. While I didn't quite understand the dialogue, there were a couple of the jokes even I got, because they were simple visual gags. So despite the fact the game is entirely in Japanese, it's really easy to understand. You roll around as the orb, and you take control of your first monkey, so the first monkey in the stage. You take control of that monkey. Now you are able to use that monkey's special abilities, and the goal is to go around the level basically taking control of each monkey one by one to not only make your way through the stage, but also to have them all under your control at the end. Once you've got to the end of the stage and you have taken control of the required number of monkeys, you just slam dunk the helmet into the monkey net at the end of the stage and you're good to go. The game has 15 stages, which is 5 sets of 3, each one separated by a boss. You've also got the final boss, and the final boss you can only fight once you've got all the monkeys. So it follows the traditional Ape Escape formula. What I don't understand is why this particular Ape Escape game didn't get released outside of Japan, yet games like Ape Quest and Ape Academy did. I mean, they are dreadful. I just don't like them. I think what I'm trying to say, without going on too many tangents, is that Saru Daisakusen is a really, really good Ape Escape experience. As good as the console versions of the games. I wouldn't say go out of your way to play this particular Ape Escape game, but if you enjoyed the Ape Escape games, especially number 3, which I consider one of my favourite platformers of all time, and if you want to know why, check out my Let's Play. If you like Ape Escape 3, you will like Saru Getchu Saru Saru Disakusen for the PlayStation Portable. You will love it. Saru Getchu Saru Saru Disakusen is a relatively fun platformer. It's got a good few hours in it. It's a decent waste of time. It's good fun. It plays like the other Ape Escapes kind of, but also has its own look and feel. Except it doesn't, because it borrows a lot from Ape Escape 3. I'm going to shut my mouth. It's a shame that it never made its way outside of Japan, because I think with a little bit of localization, a little bit of translation, a little bit of quality assurance testing, it would have turned out to be a brilliant product, and I'm sure it would have been up there with the other Ape Escape games in people's opinion. It's relatively easy to get hold of, and it's even available on the PlayStation Network store for download onto PSP and Vita, so if you have a Japanese PlayStation Network account, you can easily get hold of this game. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next Sushi Bites, if we live that long. Welcome to Sushi Bites, my rice-loving fiends. Question: if it is too personal, you don't have to answer it, but hey. Have you ever found yourself enjoying a day out with your girl and all of a sudden she gets kidnapped by a Dr. Wily wannabe? Yes? Then maybe you've been fortunate enough to have a game based on your experiences. Time Zone is that game, a Famicom exclusive platformer. You play as this boy with a red baseball cap and he throws it like a boomerang. Because this is something we all did back in the 90s, aye aye. The game begins in 1991, the very year it was released. Postmodernism. Your girlfriend or sister or whatever she is has been captured by a mad scientist and you have to go after her. Hey, this is pretty accurate actually, because in 1991 there were walking cola cans and dancing road signs. Well, that is sarcasm. Actually, there could well have been. I would have only been a year old back then, so I wouldn't really know, but I assume this didn't happen. Otherwise it would be on Wikipedia or something. I asked my parents and they said they aren't sure. I don't think they realised I was joking when I asked them. So you have to do some tricky precision platforming to get through the stages and use this really difficult boomerang baseball cap thing to defeat enemies and stuff. Let's have an auto-scrolling level with moving platforms in it. What a brilliant idea! Once in every world you will find a quiz where you can earn extra lives. This one asks you how many red things fly past. Sucks if you're colourblind or can't read Japanese. What do I do? What was I supposed to count? Oh crap. Did I get it right? Boss 1 is a somehow sentient blue car, which of course doesn't seem very pleased to see you. I suppose we can assume the scientist guy was responsible for making this car, those fizzy drinks, and those road signs cognizant. So no, despite the fact this car is alive and wants you dead, it probably isn't in any way related to Pixar's horror classic Cars or Stephen King's family romp Christine. When you win, you get beat. Better follow this dentist or scientist or whatever he is to wherever he's going, eh? So, World 2, you're thrown into BC. Well, actually, 9,999 BC. Everything we know about prehistory is wrong, you see, because dinosaurs roamed the planet only 11,000 years ago, and not only that, they spoke perfectly understandable Japanese. Hey, even better, bells existed then too. Oh, I didn't explain these. When you collect enough bells to fill the meter, you get a skateboard. So yeah, skateboards and cute little crash helmets existed in 9,999 BC too! I like how he's even bothered to put on a crash helmet. Like, come on, if you're some really rad 90s kid, would you be wearing a crash helmet? No. This world has you dodging handsome volcano rocks and hitting dinosaurs in the face with frisbee hat, and answering questions about how many pterodactyls fly across the screen, killing poor dinosaurs who happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, making your way to the evil scientist again so he can beat your ass again. The same thing every time? What is so special about this girl that the scientist really wants her, huh? And why is he willing to go to the end of time? On the plus side, we're going to the Wild West, the Wild Wild West, Jim West. The Wild West world is pretty awesome. In between the clearly racist Native American stereotypes, or Red Indians as they would have been known back then, there's also dancing cacti and... wait! Dancing cacti? And why not a jumping boot that appears to have a beak? Amazingly creative design, 10/10, would hire again. This world has you answering the question of how many times the Native American bangs his drum, and your reward is another bunch of free lives. I didn't mention that if you fail these, you don't lose anything, you just don't receive anything either. When I was playing this, I felt quite uncomfortable about these enemies, almost like playing the game was me somehow agreeing to and helping perpetuate a hurtful stereotype. But life is too short for that shit. The boss of the world is, you guessed it, a train. Either way, defeat this thing, and the scientist shows up again, does the same thing. Well, he is consistent, so we can give him that, I guess. Hey, I wonder what's going to fall on his head this time. I can't believe he falls for it every time. Hey! There's a hole in the ground this time. That's cool. That's cool. Okay. They broke a convention there. That's okay. And now, feudal Japan. Because a little boy can take on trained ninjas and live. Also, Daruma statues, because why not? At least most of this is accurate to a certain extent. Because yeah, they had skateboards in feudal Japan. The boss battle is a flying ninja who cannot keep his trousers up. Stay classy, Japan. This poor boy, every time he gets really close, he ends up getting sucked into another time period altogether. Time travel again, this time to the future. Well, it would have been the future for them. Welcome to 2010. Everybody lives in the sky and aliens have replaced the human race. I much prefer this version of 2010 to Street Fighter 2010. Either of those 2010s would have been better than the 2010 I had. I mean, this should be it. Yeah, done it. Is he gonna fall for it again? Really? So where are we going now? Gasp. I don't even know where we are. Well, he's pulling a face at me. Wily's getting awfully desperate now. Melting clocks, is this going to be like Picasso world or something? Now this is when the game goes a bit silly. Instead of travelling through time, we travel through, well, I don't know what. In this world, everything is made of playing cards, toys and pinball flippers. How am I supposed to interpret this exactly? Is this the distant past? Distant future? Yeah, forget it. What the hell is this meant to be? So you get to the end and you take on the scientist. What? You can't jump on his head? You could with all the other bosses? Ah, you set a precedent and then you broke it. After phase 1, he will start attacking with stuff from each of the time periods you visited. After he's defeated, the girl is rescued and your quest is over. Also, the boy is a magician. Who knew? Time Zone. The graphics are great, I cannot fault them. Besides a few racist character designs, the soundtrack, yeah, it's okay. And the gameplay itself is great fun and just challenging enough to infuriate, but in that good way those niggling games can be. It is stupid enough for a few laughs too. If you get a chance, give it a run through, I think you'll like it. I'll see you on the next SushiBites. If you miss it, you'll be wasabi. I can't believe I just said that. Welcome to SushiBites. This is Utsurun Desu Kawauso Hawaii Iiku. It is a video game for the Nintendo Famicom. It is based on the Utsurun Desu manga series, whose main character is an otter or sea otter. This game much like the manga it's based on, is all about circumventing convention and being as different as possible. There is no joke. The joke is that there is no joke. Let's just break the rules for comedy's sake. And that's exactly what this game does. So for starters, our title screen has to be pressed twice before it will actually appear, which is convention breaking already. But the game's gonna get even more ridiculous. How about living boots? We've started the game and there are boots that are alive. Kind of a throwback to Time Zone, maybe? And why not a jumping boot that appears to have a beak? Amazingly creative design, 10/10, would hire again. And dictionaries that shoot kanji at you. Wonderful. This same person runs every shop in the game. You better get used to seeing that face. Now here, you would have to go into the spikes, right? Well, no. You can walk. Backdrop. You can walk on the backdrop. What is this? What are you doing? Why are you breaking convention? But I don't see where I'm supposed to go. Get used to this face, you'll be seeing it a lot. Green pipes, like in that Mario Brother game. You know the one. Oh, I see, we gotta go down them. Funny. So our first boss is clearly a kappa from Japanese mythology, hence the bald patch on the top of the head and being green and everything. The majority of bosses in this game are actually fairly easy to defeat if you just keep hitting them. Which makes sense. Yeah. Didn't realise how dumb what I said was until I said it. He goes running off crying. Nice to see we're playing as the bully. Now this second level is really annoying to begin with because it requires you to do something really cryptic. And I'm sure if you can read Japanese and see what this kappa is saying, it probably makes sense. However, I had to read a guide, because this area just repeats and repeats and repeats until you do what you're asked to do. Dance in front of the ghosts. You have to dance in front of 2 ghosts. Dance in front of them, and if you do, you can leave the forest. That's so ridiculous. By this time, you'll already have more money than you'll ever need for any of the shops in the game, so yeah. The platforming mechanics, they are really, really awkward, really stiff. So the second boss is a giant beetle of some kind. Yeah. And it shoots out blue balls in a kind of difficult to predict pattern. Failing on the boss takes you back here, which isn't too far, but it's just the annoyance of having to come back here and fight these 2 enemies again. This game was such a drain to play through. Like, I could feel my energy being sapped out of my body. World 3 is a city. To start with, anyway. I don't know what these guys have done to you, they're just sort of walking past, enjoying enjoying life and taking every minute as it comes, and then just a giant sea otter punches them in the face. Yeah, I suppose it's not a great day for them. Now, this level has 11 floors in it. You don't have to go on any of the floors, like, there's nothing really besides shops and enemies. And shops always only ever sell extra health or items, really. All you have to do is go up to the 11th floor in the first elevator and then take the first door on the left. Yeah, that's what you gotta do. Again, I had to read a guide to find this out, because I was peeing about here for hours. Okay, that's an exaggeration. I was peeing about here for about 10 minutes. And 10 minutes feels like hours. So the boss of this level are alien twins, who come to Earth in a UFO. How do we know that? Because the word UFO is in the background. Very creative. Again, a fairly easy boss battle. The majority of the boss battles in this game are. This level is the airport, and then a giant plane as well. This level introduces the frog enemies, which I absolutely despise. They jump over you like Mega Man. And they're incredibly difficult to hit. Luckily, you can take that frog guy out with barely any trouble. And now on to the wing of the plane. Or perhaps on top of the plane, I'm not really sure. And our boss for this stage is the Japanese equivalent of Superman. I'm sure it's an actual character in the actual manga, but I haven't read that. What I'm trying to do here is use my super special move that damages everything on screen. But the timing for it is incredibly difficult, and if you're a single bit over, you use a skill that has a picture of a flower pot and does absolutely nothing and leaves you vulnerable for about 3 seconds. Anyway, that's Superman done, and for some reason he explodes as he goes down, so maybe he was a robot, I don't know. Let's carry on, shall we? So this is the desert level. I'm assuming it's Egypt. I don't think there were any pyramids anywhere else. I then did something really stupid here. Because I couldn't figure out where to go, I jumped up the cactus on the left using the tiny pixel that you can grab onto, and then that's it. I was stuck here. There was no way out of this situation. Imagine playing on the hardware and this happens, and there's no way out. I mean, that would suck, wouldn't it? Okay, so I've jumped to level 6. This is the moon, because apparently... well, I think it's the moon? The giant sphinx doesn't help. But the low gravity swimming and the earth in the background seems to suggest it's the moon. Either way, I wouldn't have thought the moon would be on your list of stops on the way to Hawaii, but, you know, I haven't actually been to Hawaii, so I don't know whether the moon is actually one of the places in Stonehenge? Mr. Sandman. Yes, a man made of sand lives on the moon. Whatever you say, Utsurun des, whatever you say. So now we are in, I'm assuming, the Arctic. We've got these annoying frogs to deal with. Now this level has some really tricky jumps, bad enemy placement, and it has water. If you just swim underneath the stage, you avoid the guys throwing melons at you, you avoid the guys with tambourines, you avoid the frogs. you do miss your opportunity to go to the shop, but you see what's coming up, you'll understand why I stick to the water in this level. More frogs. It's almost like this stage was designed with just swimming in mind. Because it's particularly mean with the layouts of stuff. And there's plenty of opportunities for you to jump back up, but as you'll see, there's still tons of enemies. A naked guy, apparently. And you have the opportunity now to jump up out of the water and fight the boss, but if you swim underneath, you don't get a boss. Just come up now and get the beautiful, beautiful diamonds, which give you so much money, you don't really know what to do with it. Kind of defeats the point, really. Look at all that money. Level 8 starts with a naked man. Good to see we've got our priorities straight. And this is another level where, for the most part, you can just stick to the water. I don't know why they did this, but it makes sense that a sea otter would be able to swim really well, doesn't it? While we take out the only monkey in the game, a naked man gets shot by an arrow. Now, what's coming up is particularly one of the toughest jumps in the game. And the most annoying thing about this jump is when you fail it, you have to go all the way back to just by that shop. So, I'll mention the jump as we're getting up to it, but you can see we've already gone some distance. We have to wait for these guys to stop swinging before we can defeat them. Right, here's the jump coming up. Yeah, if you edge slightly to the platform, you fail. Took me a few tries. Took me a few tries first time through the game, when my recording didn't work, and then it took me a few times this time, and I decided to keep them all in for posterity. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Sudden naked guy. Well jumped as well and avoided, actually. I forgot he was there, and I reacted as quickly as I possibly could, and then land on the thing. I'm assuming that's a record. It's hard to see because it's black and the background's black. Okay, the boss of this level is the lady and the guy on roller skates. Now I find that the best tactic to beat this boss battle is to stand on the edge here and beat up the lady first. And then he just walks off like...
Not my problem.
We're on the final level. Yes. Just gotta get in this elevator and go all the way up into the unknown. Blissfully unaware of how amazingly weird the final boss is. I think at this point you're talking to yourself. And final boss. Yeah, you weren't expecting that. Guy coughing out meteors. Every time you die on this boss, you have to go all the way back to the start, go up the elevator, talk to yourself, and then fight the boss. I mean, it's not too much, but it's just annoying that you have to do it every time, because it is so easy to fail on this boss. As you can see, you just cannot tank hits on this boss. You just can't come in with a full health bar and wail on him. It's not possible. So allow me to show you the perfect method. And the following recording was not tool assisted in any way. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Of course it was. But if you can manage to do it correctly and avoid getting hit too many times, what you can do is constantly rely on your special move. Because, I mean, just getting the timing right alone is really, really difficult. I'm not expecting people to be able to do this. The way that guy's head moves is so weird. It's like he doesn't even have a neck. I don't even know what he's meant to be. What, a businessman or something? Anyway, he bows his head in shame. And the game's over. Now, in the previous recording, I got this wonderful screen of the sea otter enjoying life in Hawaii. But when it came to recording the game, I couldn't get that to show up. Instead, I got him dancing in the Arctic. But you think I'm gonna play through the whole game just to get you that screen? Nah! You could do it yourself. So there you have it. Utsurun Desu. A comedy game with some very interesting ideas, marred by very, very poor playability, awkward controls, finicky physics. Play it? Sure, go ahead. If you feel like it, go ahead, put yourself through it. I mean, it's not a week of Garfield bad, okay? It's not that bad. It's interesting, and it has quite a few cool things going for it. But you've played one level, you've basically played them all. Still, it's an interesting curio, and if you're a collector, I'm sure it wouldn't go amiss amongst your collection. But if you're loading up these games to have fun, yeah, skip it. Just skip it. This has been SushiBites on Utsurun Desu. Until next time. Go Ackman is a manga series serialized in V-Jump, created by famous manga artist Akira Toriyama, whose work includes Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Dr. Slump. He also contributed designs to Chrono Trigger, Dragon Quest, and quite a few others. Go Ackman ran from 1993 to 1994. Despite its short run, the manga had a 15-minute anime adaptation and spawned 4 games. This is the first Super Famicom game, and it's one of those generic licensed platformers that you really come to expect. It follows the source material closely, including characters and situations from the manga and the animated special. You play as Ackman, a young demon who is tasked with collecting souls for Lord Satan. Well, that's funny. So you guide Ackman, or as I like to call him, Mini Trunks, around each stage, defeating enemies to increase your score. Boring, arbitrary. With the main goal of defeating the various bosses you encounter along the way. While you never see Lord Satan... Hail Satan! Seriously, I have no idea what that is. While you never see that guy during the game, you do get to see one of the head honcho villains, Michaela. In tow is low-level angel and nuisance Tenshi, who has made it his life's goal to eradicate Ackman however he can. Tenshi is the comic relief for sure, and extremely incompetent. Tenshi's not as incompetent in the game, and his little army of subordinates can be really hard work. Ackman can pick up some weapons to make his task easier, but they disappear if you get hit. which happens quite a bit unless you have the game memorized to a great level of accuracy. The levels take place mostly as left to right side-scrollers, though some more vertically designed stages with exploration come a little later on. The main challenge of the game is almost completely derived from the boss battles, which can be very difficult without a good weapon in your hands. Along the way, nothing much tends to happen in terms of story, just various conflicts with the angels that result in mildly funny situations, such as the angels getting more and more ticked off as the game goes on. The game is appealing enough visually, it is clearly Toriyama's work. The capsule buildings, weird grassy mountains, the character designs, it's all classic Dragon Ball. I was expecting Goku or Bulma to turn up in their search for brightly coloured orbs, but they didn't appear. Overall, it's a passable little game worth playing through if you're a platformer fan, or if you like Toriyama's work, but it's overall quite uneventful. I can't really recommend the manga either, and the level of humour itself is a bit on the crude side sometimes, but I kinda dig that. Getting this game isn't too hard or expensive. On eBay it's anywhere from just under a tenner to about 30 quid, depending on condition and location. Language barrier minimal. The story is the only thing that you can't follow. But wait, you cry. It's been in English this whole time. Fan translations exist online, so track one of those down and there is no language barrier. Should you play it? Yes. It's a platformer, it's a relatively simple game you can get through in less than a day. One of those sit down and have a run of it sort of things. Grab a Coke, chill out for a few hours, and give Ackman a go. This game was suggested by my friend Jeff, cheers buddy, it was entertaining enough. As always, leave your comments or suggestions here on the video page, or stuff them in the completely anonymous suggestion box. I do read them all. This has been SushiBites. Thanks for watching. This is Aoi Blink, or Blue Blink. This was the last animated series worked on by Osamu Tezuka, the father of manga. He died during its production and it ended without him. Sad in a way, but all good things come to an end eventually, even people. Ooh. You play as Kakeru. No, he doesn't catch apes. Wrong Kakeru. One day he sees a blue pony getting zapped by lightning and rescues him. That pony is Blink, who says if Kakeru ever needs help, he'll return the favour. Just say his name 3 times in the mirror. Yeah, isn't that how Candyman started? Well, maybe not. I don't think ponies make shoes. Kakeru comes home to find his father has been kidnapped by an evil emperor and calls on Blink for help. Together they go searching for him. That's all you need to know to enjoy the game. Ah yes, the game. It was a Japan exclusive for the PC Engine, but with the power of hacks, there's a translated version online. Thanks Gaijin Productions and Zatos Hacks. Wow, the translation's from 2001, now that makes me feel old. The game starts in Rosetown. Kakeru and friends set off to rescue his dad, with help from Blink. If they ever find themselves in a pickle, just pause and press button 1 to use Blink's magic to recover our health. Blink, blink, blink! You control 3 characters at any given time. Kakeru and 2 others chosen for you depending on the level. You can switch between characters using select, and you'll want to because each character has their own attack, as well as stats in jumping and walking. So switching between characters often to best utilise their abilities is paramount. Collecting coins is something you're going to do quite a lot in this game. Collect 100 and you get an extra heart for your maximum health. If you complete the world, that heart is permanently kept, even if you then game over. Each stage has multiple exits which lead to different places, and in each world, 1 red key is hidden. That key is what opens the boss room, and allows you to move on to the next world. Finding the key is done by completing stages, receiving hints from non-player characters, and generally skulking about until you find them. Some are so cryptically hidden that I swear I've done Times crosswords easier than this. but their locations never change, so once you've beaten the game and committed their locations to memory, you don't have to go hunting with an all-new set of clues or anything like that. There are also blue keys which appear in many places, and they open just chests lying around the place. If you play well, you'll end up with more than you will ever need. Boss battles are fought on Blink's back, and are generally harder than the rest of the game. The second boss is ridiculous, but I've been told I should get good at games, so I'm gonna suck it up and be a man. Game over. Well, we'll cunt from the start of this world. I'm gonna need a drink first. A lot of the game time is spent, if you're a clever sod, farming extra hearts by playing stages with loads of enemies in them over and over. Knowing which chests have extra lives is also down to memorization, so once you know, you won't waste your blue keys. The gameplay is a little bit stiff, but it's on PC Engine, so that's understandable. This is evened out by the amount of damage you can take, it's quite a lot. It's a shame you can't take the same sort of beating during boss battles, but hey, you can't win them all. But I'm pretty sure you can win Owie Blink. I think the difficulty level is just right. When you beat the game, you get a long, arduous, slow text crawl about the value of friendship. Why was such a small group able to defeat the Emperor? It was because of deep friendship. If they had tried to fight alone, they would have lost. Strength bonded in friendship gives people much more power. It was this power of friendship that led Kawauso to victory. Thank you for playing. I gotta hand it to Hudson Soft. They have a real treat here. Owie Blink is a fun little game. That's pretty much it. Language barrier, minimal. In the Japanese version, you will have to hunt around for keys a lot, and it's much harder without clues. Even so, it can be done. Of course, if you're playing the translation, there's no barrier at all. Should you play it? Oh, absolutely. There are loads of cool ideas and fun things to do in this game. There's even an abstract stage with melting clocks. Well, if they think it's necessary. I certainly was not expecting this, I'm gonna be honest. If you want to see the game in full and enjoy tangential conversation about the Blue Girl or something, head over to the archived livestream. This has been SushiBites. Thanks for watching. From the tiny island where people go bananas about royalty, let's instead take a look at some royalty that are all into bananas. Ooh.
Do you see Banana Man hopping over on the white hot sand? Here he comes.
Welcome to SushiBites. Bananas are great. You know, they're technically a berry. They're also absolutely funking delicious. You can make beer out of them. They're a modern marvel. Well, they're modern if you consider that the Cavendish we eat today only gained popularity after the 1950s, when other bananas died out due to banana black plague. The banana is an important part of our lives, and I for one couldn't imagine living without them. It took all sorts of engineering and science to bring the banana to your fruit bowl. This week on SushiBites, we're looking at two Famicom games all about bananas. I say all about bananas, but in actuality, this is about as vague as a themed episode can get. I had to come up with something on the spot, and this is the best I could do. Bananas.
Shit is bananas! B-A-N-A-N-A-S!
Banana is a 1986 puzzle game, where you have to get horny Mr. Mole to Miss Mole, and also collect all the food. It's about stockpiling, hibernating, and fornication between underground dweller types. The manual states that the female mole is the player's daughter-in-law. Then why on the title screen do they kiss and a baby mole is born? Does that not seem odd to you? So despite the adultery, what else is here? It's kind of like Boulder Dash if you've ever played that. You can move left, right, and down. You can only move up in this game when you're on a ladder, however. You need to collect the food while avoiding rocks. The rocks can't actually kill you, but if they fall in an awkward place, they can trap you. If you get trapped, you need to press A and B at the same time to kill yourself off. Collect all the food, find Miss Mole, and get to the goal. And get to the goal, if you know what I mean, you dirty little mole. In the dirt, you literally dirty, because you dig in the dirt, you dirty, dirty mole. On the score screen, you'll lose points depending on how many steps you took, because back then scores seemed to matter a lot. This game is equipped with a level creator, which is about the only reason why I'd ever recommend this. If you were playing on the Famicom, you could save your levels to a cassette tape, and keep them forever. Well, forever until the media degrades beyond usable condition, or it has an unfortunate accident involving a magnet. I suppose it's also worth noting that the game's name does have meaning. Collecting a banana will give you a random power-up to help you if you get stuck. You shouldn't need them, as each puzzle has a working solution. Banana is quite frankly a boring-ass time. All 105 or whatever levels there are, I forget. But then again, games weren't exactly complicated back then. It's a product of its time, as a lazy reviewer would say. Or as I would say, because I'm wicked and I'm lazy.
The shit is bananas. Yeah.
Bananan Oji no Daiboken is a side-scrolling platformer for the Famicom, released in 1991, when the Super Famicom was already on the scene. Surprisingly, this was also localized, but only in Germany. Thankfully, an English-language translation patch of the German version exists, so that's the ideal way to play. There are a few regional differences. The German version has some revised graphics and alters the game show questions. Oh yeah, about that. There are questions you can answer to get items and points throughout the game. This makes the Japanese version a bit of a hurdle to get through. You play as Banana Prince, a native of Banana Island, where they seem to worship the banana. I'm sorry, it's just ridiculous. One day, the Pepper Dragon steals the giant banana and the special banana weaponry passed down through the generations. Prince rushes off to retrieve the items and maybe kick the dragon's ass too. What makes this a little different to most platformers is that you can plant seeds to sprout flowers you can climb. When you reach the top and jump off, you do a spin that can incapacitate most enemies. You also have a basic axe, which can be replaced for stronger weaponry. You collect rings, I guess kinda like Sonic? And you can spend these at the casino, weapon shop, or pay for a ride to one of the bonus islands to retrieve one of the stolen items. While playing, you can also find whoever this is, who happens to be the prince's love interest. A kiss from her fills up your life meter, so it's worth trying every door. There aren't any traps, so there's no reason not to. Defeating enemies and opening chests, that's the main format of the game. The controls are okay, maybe a little stiff. The worst moments are when the archaic, old-fashioned design of the game gets in the way. The camera scrolling can be very awkward indeed, especially on vertical stages. When they pull shit like this here, where there's only one cannon that's the correct option, I blow my lid. The swimming controls are awful. Most of the time I do everything I can to stay out of the water because I hate dealing with it. Sometimes a bird appears out of nowhere and takes you to bonus islands. The bad news is if this happens, it'll plonk you back to the start of the level it happened on. A pain in the arse for sure when it happened to me on this level. Screw this level. Now I have to do the majority of it again. There are hidden level warps that allow you to jump to the next area. These aren't a free thing like in Super Mario Bros. No, you're expected to pay for these too. This hidden warp costs 100 rings, but cuts out having to fight the upcoming boss. Rings well spent. The bonus islands are a pain too. It's all quiz questions and dice rolls. You might get a rare opportunity to scratch off panels and get some extra lives. Lives really aren't a concern though. Not only do you have infinite continues, but picking continue also puts you back at the last checkpoint you reached. There's also a complete password system, so you don't have to play the game in a whole sitting. Though you could with warps quite easily. My personal recommendation is to input the password that starts you at the first level, but with the ultimate weapon, Kingship. The game is a whole lot more fun with that weapon. Couldn't imagine taking on the later bosses like the dragon without it. Banana Prince I can recommend. I quite enjoy the changes made to this game in the German localization, though they seem to be under the impression that the tomato is a vegetable, which it isn't. And it's baffling this wasn't released anywhere other than Germany or Japan. Perhaps with the Super Nintendo out, nobody felt like releasing an NES game. Not that that stopped Nintendo releasing Kirby's Adventure well after the SNES was on the scene. If you're keen on platformers, Banan Oji no Daiboken is a thoroughly enjoyable romp, though the level design could do with some work. I'm going to do a henshin any minute now. I overslept. I didn't make a SushiBites last week. I know what I need. I need a miracle. Miracle. That's it. Miracle Girls. Miracle Girls is a manga by Nami Akimoto, which began in 1991 and ran until 1994. It is in the same vein as stuff like Cardcaptor Sakura and Sailor Moon. The manga was made into a 51-episode TV anime in 1993, and then this game came along for Super Famicom in the same year. It's about two twins, Tomomi and Mikage Matsunaga, and it would probably be best described as a slice of life, but with magic, I guess. The twins have ESP powers. They are able to fly, teleport, and communicate telepathically with each other. They are often stuck trying to hide their powers from their friends, who pretty much knew about them already. In Miracle Girls, the sisters and their friends are transported to a weird magical world unlike their own, and the goal is to rescue all their friends and get to the end, taking on side-scrolling stages and minigames as they go. What you're seeing here is an English translation patch from October 2004 by Johnny, En Nihen, RPG Maniac No. 1 and Elf. It goes as far as to translate the voice clips featured in the game, which is some lengths to go to just to create a full translation, so kudos to them on that. However, if your Japanese isn't rusty, then I'd recommend playing the original unpatched version, as the only language barrier is the colour red or white in Japanese. Simple stuff, really. So once upon a time, Mikage and Tomomi are at school talking to Kageura, Daijoji, Noda, and Kurashige. There I go, naming characters like you're meant to know who they are again. Whoops. When a weird white light appears out of nowhere and teleports the bunch to an alternate dimension, ruled by the ridiculous Majo Majo. Not only that, Tomomi and Mikage's friends are missing, each one imprisoned by an equally ridiculous-looking boss. The only way to rescue them is to take part in increasingly difficult minigames. The main gameplay is typical Super Famicom platforming fare, with tight controls and gorgeous big sprites. The Sufami is always poppin' with those colours and that sweet sound chip, and the both are being used to their fullest extent. Illustrations are charming and highly detailed, and the music is chill and relaxing. Even though the game feels good to play, the emphasis is on the non-violent design, which means it's actually a pain in the ass. Tomomi and Mikage can throw candy at enemies to temporarily incapacitate them. While the enemy is in the stunned state, they can be jumped on to reach new places. Which is cool, I dig that. It reminds me of jumping on your star in Gimmick to reach super secrets. What I don't dig is that the only way to take out an enemy for good is to ram into them with invincibility. The game loves to hurl enemies at you in the long stretch after invincibility, but the power-up never returns. If you get a game over and choose continue, it's still gone. So really, the invincibility is better off not taken unless you know you're not going to fall in a pit later. There is only one checkpoint in each stage, and finding a bonus level or dying will always send you back to the start or the checkpoint. If the bonus door is 2 seconds away from the checkpoint, you can bloody guess it's going to send you back to the start of the level. And of course, any power-ups are still gone. The jumping can be a bit buggy on floating platforms. There's a part specifically in the 3rd level where the floating platforms are so maddening, I almost shut the game off and said, no, to hell with it, no SushiBites this week. However, the bonus stage beforehand had warned me to deal with my problems instead of ignoring them, so I soldiered on. This is one pretty game, and if you can put up with some less than stellar platforming in places, then you really can't go wrong. About the worst it gets is having to jump on the correct colour platforms, and with infinite continues it could really be a lot worse. No passwords though, so you do have to do it all in one sitting. The first playthrough with a few deaths took me less than an hour, so it's nothing egregious. The boss battles, or mini-games rather, are the worst part of this game hands down. There's only 3 and they all get recycled, with the final boss battle consisting of all 3 one after another. There is a water pistol game where you have to shoot water at enemies, there's a card matching game which appears to have its own bullshit rules that change randomly, and there's this odd one out game where you have to pick the person who is out of sync. You can cheese this one by selecting wrong answers the whole time, and then picking the correct one near the end. As the timer runs out, the computer can't pick in time. Good tactics. The boss fights are prefaced by a cutscene where you meet the absurd-looking boss and they talk to you for a while. After beating each one, you rescue another friend. After all 4, you face the terrifying Majo, who agrees to send you back to your world. The reason he summoned you here is because everyone is shit at games, and he hoped that they could beat a few measly little girls. Wow, Japan, you'd better hope some privileged scam artist doesn't latch onto this to make a YouTube video series. By the time I was done with it, Miracle Girls didn't outstay its welcome, and could even be described as somewhat of a good game. I might even say I recommend it, though perhaps it's a little too easy. Breezy, I guess. The show is up on YouTube at the moment, so you could even give that a watch, assuming it doesn't get taken down. It has been up for 8 years though, so I'm pretty confident it's not getting stricken anytime soon, but I've kind of just jinxed it, haven't I? What I'm trying to say is that if you are curious about early 90s magical girl anime and manga, this show and game are a good place to look. This has been SushiBites. Thanks for watching.
ありがとうございます。先輩、こんなに奮発しちゃって大丈夫ですか？え？You can't touch this. Welcome to SushiBites. As I dig through its library, the PS2 is a console that continues to deliver. And in celebration of the console's recent 20th anniversary, I'd like to take a look at a game that we were completely, absolutely robbed of in the West. I'm talking about Poinie's Poin. You can't touch this!
A 3D platformer developed by Albion and published by Sony Computer Entertainment Interactive themselves. This game is region-locked to Japanese consoles, and yet it contains full English voiceover and script. The English language is the way the developers originally intended the game to be played, with the Japanese script being referred to as stand-in, a quick and dirty translation of the English one. This super stylish platformer adventure hybrid can be played in full without any knowledge of the Japanese language required.
which is why its lack of Western release really confuses me. The script is full of references that only people with a good knowledge of Western cartoons and media would make, plus jokes, euphemisms, and idioms that only land among the older generation. I don't fancy the effort right now, but I should really look into whether the writers for this game are credited, and whatever else they might have worked on, as I enjoyed this game's sense of humour and writing the most out of all of its elements. Did the game's myriad of camera issues, poor control, and obtuse puzzles harm its chances at a release in the West? Even though these elements irked me as I played, there are no doubts in my mind that Poinie's Poin would have filled the platforming niche on the PS2 back when it released if it had been given a chance. You play as Poinie, a young boy who has managed to get separated from his mother after being distracted by a television screen in a local store window. While searching for his mother, he bumps into a girl named Lilin, who is being chased by a group of bad guys. Poinie and Lilin fall into a sewer, and the only way out is for Poinie to use his newly obtained Poin mixing powers. This is the game's puzzle element. These are Poins. There are 3 Poin colours: red, yellow, and blue, each representing an emotion. Red is anger, yellow is happiness, and blue is sadness. Hitting an NPC with a coloured Poin will make them feel the colour-coded emotion. You can also mix Poins. Mixing a Poin with a different coloured Poin will turn it into the other remaining colour. Mixing a yellow and a red will make a blue and a red makes a yellow, etc. You can also destroy 2 Poins by mixing them together if they are the same colour, like 2 reds, 2 yellows, 2 blues. The game's many puzzles revolve around mixing the right colour Poin to give an NPC the necessary emotion required to progress. Poinie's Poin mixing powers are given to him by Poin, a duck-like creature that acts as Poinie's tail. This loudmouth speaks mostly in insults and jabs, and the voice actor is putting on their very best, though ultimately terrible, Eric Cartman impression.
The things I do for you, babe. But then again, a babe in need is a babe indeed. But I ain't playing witness to some wet-ass suckling sucker. I understand the feeling a lot can happen. Try different combos. Sometimes the people turn into airheads like you read.
Poinie, Poin, and Lilin travel through the sewer, which acts as a tutorial on how to mix Poins. At the end of the sewers, our main characters come face to face with the bad guys from before, a mean girl named Lolo and her army of space cats, the Hellnyaos. Lolo mixes up a toxic Poin, which gives people negative emotions, and uses it to poison Lilin. This presents us with the first boss battle of many, where we must mix the correct Poins in order to restore Lilin back to her normal self. From here, the game turns into a quest where Poinie must find his house so he can go home. On this journey, you will join a delinquent gang, restore the town's water supply, help a chef prepare a delicious meal, and even come face to face with a ghost inside of Poinie's own nightmares. The game may have a childish look and feel, but the story and script are anything but.
Yeah, well, whatever, Stinky, but sure, Poinie will be your friend, but let me ask you just one thing. Who died in here? Where hiding the body?
And why not, you old geezer? Is tonight bingo night at the old folks' home?
Fuck!
Get the Geritol. The old man's losing.
Geritol?
Geritol.
The presentation of Poinie's Poin is so great that the game looks visually stunning even now. For a PS2 game released in late 2002, it has stood the test of time better than many of its peers. The soundtrack is goofy, adequately mixing Saturday morning cartoons and video gamey tunes. The voice acting, while horrendous, is also hilarious.
Important customers are coming in. What are we gonna
And this voiceover is the intended voiceover. This is the one they want you to play the game with.
I'll be buggered if I'll do all that cooking on my own, boy!
I'll be buggered! I was worried I was going into this game expecting too much, and yet it continued to deliver upon itself constantly. So I know what you're thinking. I'd like to get myself a copy of this game. You want a copy of Poinie's Poin? Sure. How much money do you have? Right now, grabbing a copy of this game will set you back over $100, regardless of condition. I'd like for Sony to do as they did with Okage, and release these harder to find and expensive games digitally on their consoles, such as the PlayStation 4. I think the ship has sailed for further PS2 classics on that platform, unfortunately, a shame seeing as the PS2 classics range is the only way for gamers to experience games like Okage in the West. For more information, watch episode 101 of SushiBites, Okage Shadow King. This is how you run a digital store. Give us stuff that's fresh and exciting. Unlike Nintendo, who keeps giving us Ice Climber. My only hope is that as the 20th anniversary of this game comes in 2 years' time, that hopefully Sony will do something with the property then. Even a re-release on modern systems with trophies, high-definition graphics, and improved controls would be enough. Though if Sony would rather I emulate this hard-to-find game on my PC and don't pay them a penny, I'm fine either way. Of course, I'd like to buy this game on a modern system if given the opportunity. It definitely deserves a second lease on life. That's part of the reason why I'm doing this video to begin with. Poinie's Poin is weird, downright absurd, and totally unsure of what it is. That's probably why I enjoyed playing through it as much as I did. While I don't outwardly condone piracy, I will say that if you happen to accidentally download a copy of Poinie's Poin, you can do much worse than playing it. This has been SushiBites. Yippee-yo! You can't touch this!
Yippee-yo! You can't touch this!
You can't touch this! Japan only. With full English voiceover and message. Japan only.
If you feel weak and run down, check with your doctor, but remember, your weak run-down condition may come from a lack of certain essential vitamins. E-R-I-T-O-L. Be sure you get what you ask for. Geritol. 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 Geritol.